了，开门了。
他们是机器人！完了！这个只有出手啊！我不要！
警察，你怕什么呀？对呀，我操，这么多人在这里。
住手！站住手！赶紧给家里人打电话，跟马号一样。
This video is from 2023. A man was shouting things like, "Inner Earth beings, the sixth cycle, and final destination is here." He said something was going to happen to the plane, just like Malaysia Airlines. Even after he was restrained, he kept yelling things like study physics and advanced calculus. And the woman in white in this video is the actress Zhang Yuqi. Because of this incident, she also ended up in the news. The official report stated that the man was in an abnormal mental state and had been sent to a professional medical institution for treatment. The announcement did not say whether his statements were true or false. It only emphasized that his behavior disrupted public order. Let's start by considering two possibilities. First possibility. The man really does have a mental illness. In medicine, the brain function of psychiatric patients can be triggered into severe imbalance by environmental factors such as the surroundings, sounds, smells, and so on. The underlying reason is that they lose the ability to accurately perceive and judge reality. They may uncontrollably experience auditory hallucinations, delusions, and extreme emotional breakdowns. All of these can cause an episode. Second possibility. The man was not having an episode. It's possible he was telling the truth, and that he was trying to do something through this kind of extreme behavior, even if it meant paying a price. Is this second possibility even plausible? To answer that, we first have to ask ourselves, are there things in this world that really did happen, but people are simply not allowed to know about them? The PRISM program in the United States and the whistleblowers who bravely spoke out for the truth. The CIA's notorious secret human experiments. There are countless such examples. Before the truth was revealed, people were usually completely unaware and believed such things were impossible. Mainstream social atmosphere also tended to label these topics as fake information or disinformation. So, if you believe that those who control the filter switches of information channels can decide which information appears or disappears, which becomes fake or real, then you will naturally realize there are far too many things in this world that exist completely outside our field of vision. Inner Earth beings. The sixth cycle. Malaysia Airlines. Is there some hidden connection among these? I found some posts online. I'll leave it to you to judge whether they're true or not. One version claims that he saw a flight attendant changing her own batteries and was so terrified that he had this outburst. According to this version, he said, "They're robots." That's the robot version of the story. Another version says, the man accidentally saw a flight attendant reveal a tail. According to that, he said, "They're inner Earth beings." That's the inner Earth being version. Some people even analyzed the footage frame by frame, and sure enough, they found some suspicious details. This part really does look like a tail, and its color is very close to human skin tone. So I also went through the video frame by frame, and I found that this tail appears like this. Watch carefully, the tail appears here. At this point many people will say, that's terrifying. Are there really inner Earth beings? I've made a whole series of videos about the Lacerta files before. When it comes to aliens, UFOs, and inner Earth beings, I maintain an open attitude. That doesn't mean they definitely exist, but I remain open to the possibility. At the same time, objective scientific evidence and facts are necessary. Otherwise, what awaits you is not the truth about the world, but your own fear-driven fantasies. First, let's look at this from a scientific perspective. In this video, if that thing really were a so-called tail, then we should see the motion trajectory of a complete object appearing from nothing and moving as a whole. Its movement should be coherent and continuous. But in reality, what we see is this. After zooming in on a certain distant corner of the frame, several irregular patches of image, moving in multiple directions at random, happen to form what looks like a tail. It's like looking at clouds. With the same cloud shape, if you're thinking about a rabbit, it looks like a rabbit. If you're thinking about a dog, suddenly, it looks like a dog. In psychology, there is a technical term for this. Pareidolia, a fantasy illusion, where the brain sees patterns that aren't really there. Pareidolia is especially common in smartphone videos, particularly when you zoom in on distant details. The biggest factors that influence this are pixel density and algorithmic processing. For example, you'll notice that in the footage, you can't clearly see the flight attendant's face at all. There are no visible facial features. There are two reasons for this. Not enough pixels. Faces that are far away in the frame are too small, so they only occupy a tiny number of pixels. The algorithm makes it worse. Phone beautification and noise reduction algorithms try to make the image cleaner, so they actively smear out those tiny clusters of pixels. As a result, smartphone footage, especially distant details, is a distorted and error-filled record of the real world. So this so-called tale is very likely a misjudgment caused by insufficient pixel density. Phone algorithms, human pareidolia, all combined. But does that mean there's no deeper layer to this man's words and the entire incident? I don't think so. Similar events have occurred overseas as well, also on airplanes.
The fucker back there is not real! And you can sit on this plane and you can die with them or not! I'm not going to.
There is this case of a woman who said the person in the back row was not real. You guys can sit on this plane, and you can die with them if you want, but I'm not going to. This woman's name is Tiffany Gomas. She was on a flight from Dallas-Fort Worth to Orlando. She also said she did not believe the plane would arrive safely. Some reports say she even mentioned the plane might explode. Because she was so insistent and clearly emotionally out of control, the crew had no choice but to escort her off the plane. For safety reasons, they made all passengers deplane and go through security checks again. The flight was ultimately delayed by about 3 hours. The reason this incident became so famous comes down to one sentence: that person is not real. That line triggered a global wave of speculation online. According to the official police report, Tiffany Gomas was extremely agitated at the time, but authorities believed she might have been intoxicated or experiencing another mental disturbance. She eventually received a citation for trespassing, but was not formally arrested. About a month later, Tiffany Gomas posted an apology video on social media. She apologized for her behavior, calling it a breakdown moment and completely unacceptable. But she did not explain what she actually saw, or why she said that sentence, because she never gave an explanation, and because her expression at the time showed intense, very real fear. This incident caused a wave of discussion in UFO and occult communities. Speculation has been endless. Some people believe she saw a reptilian, in other words, an inner Earth being, or a shape-shifting alien whose disguise failed. In my videos about the Lacerta files, I've mentioned this before. Inner Earth beings, according to that material, can invade human mental space and freely change how they appear in human perception. This is not a physical transformation, but a mental one. Now let's return to the domestic incident. When he shouted inner Earth beings, is there deeper information hidden behind that? Yes, inner Earth beings and the Lacerta files are closely connected. The latter is often treated as a specific evidence source for the former. So what are the Lacerta files? The Lacerta files, sometimes translated as the Lizard People files, are a series of alleged interview transcripts published between late 1999 and 2000. The interviewee is a female being who calls herself Lacerta. She claims she is not human and not an alien in the usual sense, but a highly evolved reptilian or lizard being. Her species, she says, are the original natives of Earth. Millions of years before humans appeared, they had already evolved a highly advanced civilization here. Due to changes in the surface environment and an ancient war with aliens, her species was forced to relocate into enormous underground cities and cave systems deep in Earth's crust. The aliens she refers to there are the creators of humanity. Now, if the man in this domestic case was not just talking nonsense and did not have a so-called mental illness, if he really did see an inner Earth being, then based on the information we have, we can infer the following. Inner Earth beings can shapeshift. Lacerta specifically explains this in the interviews. Their shapeshifting is a higher-level mental ability called mimicry. This is not a physical transformation. Their bodies, scales, tails and so on, do not biologically turn into human skin and bones. The change is a form of mental projection. They use powerful telepathic abilities to project a specific image and signal, "I am a human," directly into the minds of all nearby humans. When nearby humans receive this signal, their brains automatically fill in a normal human image, for example, a blonde woman. What you see is a human being, but the being standing in front of you is still a reptilian. However, Lacerta emphasizes that using this ability consumes a lot of energy and cannot be maintained for long, and it has no effect, or only weak effect, on cameras and electronic devices. This is why, in many conspiracy videos about reptilian shapeshifters, people claim that in brief glitches or frozen frames on TV, they can see a politician or celebrity momentarily reveal reptilian eyes. Reptilians are one type of inner Earth beings. Their mimicry ability has several weaknesses and limitations. If their concentration is broken by external factors, such as suddenly being startled, extreme fatigue or illness, or severe distraction, then their mental projection may flicker or temporarily fail. In that brief instant, nearby humans may catch a glimpse of their true form, scales, vertical pupils, or non-human facial structures. The files suggest that the vast majority of human brains are in a kind of sleeping or highly suggestible state, so most people are easily fooled by their projections. But there are a few people who may be born with stronger mental power or willpower, naturally resistant to mental control or hypnosis. Those described as spiritually awakened are even less affected. These people have strong resistance to such projections or can see through them more easily, directly perceiving the true form. Lacerta also mentions that animals like dogs and cats, especially mammals, are usually not affected by this projection. Their brain structure is different from humans, so they cannot properly receive or process this mimicry signal. They see the reptilian's actual body. This also explains why animals sometimes show sudden fear or aggression towards certain people who look completely normal to us. So now we have two lines of explanation. One is mainstream science. It tells us that because of pixel density limits and algorithmic processing, strange visual artifacts can appear. We already analyzed this. The second line comes from hidden sources of information, such as the Lacerta files. According to those descriptions, there is no need to talk about any full-tail movement at all, because the being is in a constant state of disguise. Only at certain special moments can you catch a glimpse of an inner Earth being's true appearance. From the perspective of this second line, the first explanation is completely overturned. This so-called tale may very well be a split second of truth captured by the camera. And as for the man's hysterical reaction, if we analyze it from the viewpoint of the second line, it's very possible he accidentally witnessed an inner Earth being's transformation. As for the foreign woman, she never mentioned inner Earth beings or reptilians. She only said the person in the back row was not truly human. Based on that, some people speculate that she might have seen a so-called NPC, a non-player character, a person without a soul inside a simulation, whose script glitched, which frightened her. This theory claims that the world we currently live in is virtual, so realistic that we cannot tell it is actually just a game. This is not just some random conspiracy theory. It is called the simulation hypothesis. The philosopher Nick Bostrom is one of the most influential figures in bringing it to the public. Elon Musk has also said on a public show that he believes our world is virtual, not the true base reality. His core argument is a logical inference based on the development speed of video games. He says, if we look back 40 years, the earliest video games we had were extremely primitive, a black and white game with just 2 paddles and a ball. But only 40 years later, we already have photorealistic 3D simulation games, with millions of players online simultaneously. If you assume this technological progress continues at any rate, even much slower than now, then in the not-so-distant future, say in 10,000 years, which is just an instant on a cosmic timescale, games will very likely develop to a point where they are indistinguishable from reality. Based on this, Musk draws a probabilistic conclusion. Assume there is one real, original universe, which we call base reality. If a civilization in base reality, or any other civilization, once reaches the level where it can create simulations, indistinguishable from reality, it is impossible that they would create only one such simulation. They would very likely create tens of billions, hundreds of billions of them, just like we now have countless games. Now ask a question. Which reality are we in? If there is only one base reality, and tens of billions of simulated realities, then from pure statistical probability, the chance that we are in base reality is vanishingly small. Therefore, Musk believes that the probability we are living in base reality is about 1 in billions. In other words, he thinks we can almost be certain that we are living in a virtual game or simulation created by some higher civilization. Musk also adds that this reasoning depends on whether we can ever reach that technological singularity. He says humanity's future has only 2 possibilities. Possibility 1, we continue to exist. We continue to develop technology until we have the ability to create simulated worlds, indistinguishable from reality. If that happens, it almost confirms that we ourselves are in a simulation, because we will have proven that such simulations are possible, which means earlier civilizations very likely have already done it. Possibility 2, we go extinct. Something happens, nuclear war, climate collapse, an asteroid impact, and so on, and civilization is destroyed. We never reach the stage where we can create advanced simulation games. Musk jokes that, given these 2 options, he actually hopes we are living in a simulation, because that would at least mean our host civilization did not destroy itself, but successfully developed the technology to run this simulation. To end this video, I want to leave 2 things we haven't yet discussed. What exactly is the 6th cycle? And what does it mean that something will happen to the plane, just like Malaysia Airlines? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you want me to dive deeper into these 2 points in future videos? And regarding the different lines of analysis we've discussed in this episode, what are your ideas? Leave a reply. If this video gets more than 2,000 likes, I'll continue to analyze the remaining unanswered questions in the next episode.